A single mom asked a stranger for a ride and got more than she expected. On a stormy evening, the wind howled through the empty streets, scattering broken branches across the road. The rain came down heavy and the road was deserted. Sarah stood in the middle of the road, her silhouette trembling in the wind. She was holding her child. Her coat clung to her body like a second skin, her hair matted and dripping, one arm wrapped tightly around a small, whimpering child held in her arms. Her free hand rose, trembling, palm open. She was the kind of figure you'd think twice about. She was looking mysterious and yet heartbreakingly human. Inside a black Escalade, Ethan Callahan sat in the back seat, his gaze fixed on the window as raindrops raced down. The day's meetings had been stressful, filled with tense negotiations and critical decisions to salvage his company. His shoulders ached with the weight of responsibility, and his mind was a whirlwind of unresolved issues. As the car turned onto a quieter street, the driver suddenly came to a halt. Ethan Callahan leaned forward from the back seat. "Why are we stopping?" The driver cleared his throat. "There's someone waving at us. She is standing on the road." Ethan squinted. Through the blurred glass, he could just make her out. Her eyes were wide and her knees slightly bent, as if she were holding herself up by sheer force of will. She stood in the middle of the street, drenched from head to toe, clutching a small child to her chest. He saw the desperation on her face before he heard her voice. "Please," Sarah said, stepping toward the car. "I just need a ride. Anywhere dry. My son, he's freezing." The driver reached for the door lock and was prepared to deny her, but just as she turned to walk away, Ethan said to his driver, "Let her in." The rear door of the car opened. "Get in," Ethan said, his tone firm but calm. The woman looked up, startled, and said, "What?" "Get in," he repeated, gesturing to the seat beside him. She hesitated when the door opened, eyes flickering over the strangers inside. Her son whimpered softly, and she pressed a kiss to his forehead. Then she quickly climbed into the car, holding her child tightly. "Thank you," she murmured, sliding in. The driver glanced at his boss in the rear-view mirror, eyebrows raised, but said nothing as he resumed driving. Ethan gave her a quick glance. She had torn boots, a bruise along her jaw, mud on the knees of her jeans, but it was her eyes that got Ethan spellbound. Her eyes were gray and deeply beautiful. "What's your name?" he asked. "Sarah," she whispered, "and my son is Leo." The drive to Ethan's estate was silent except for the storm outside. Sarah sat stiffly, holding her son with practiced care. When she coughed, it was small and apologetic, like she was afraid even the sound might cost her the ride. "Do you have anywhere to go?" Ethan asked. "No," she replied. "Not anymore." He studied her again. Something in her posture, which was rigid and ready to flee, told him she wasn't just homeless. She was hunted. "I have a guest house on my property," he said finally. "You will stay there and get a warm bed and food. I just want to help you and your baby. You can stay there until you figure things out." Sarah's eyes widened with gratitude. She didn't speak. She just nodded, slowly, as if afraid speaking might break the spell. As the car pulled into the driveway of Ethan's estate, the gates opened silently, revealing a sprawling property surrounded by tall trees. The main house loomed ahead, its lights glowing warmly against the dark sky. The driver parked near the guest house. Ethan stepped out, holding an umbrella over Sandra and Leo as they exited the car. He led them inside, showing them the small but comfortable space. "There's food in the kitchen and the bathroom is stocked with essentials," he said. "I very much appreciate everything," Sarah said. Ethan offered a small smile and replied, "Get some rest. We'll talk more in the morning." As he turned to leave, Leo reached out and touched Ethan's hand. "Thank you, sir." Ethan looked down at the boy, a flicker of emotion crossing his face, and he responded, "You're welcome, Leo." He stepped out into the rain, the door closing softly behind him. Inside, Sandra held her son close, tears streaming down her face as she whispered, "Maybe things are finally looking up." Outside, Ethan stood for a moment, the rain soaking his clothes as he stared into the darkness. Something about Sandra and Leo had stirred something deep within him, something he had not felt in a long time. He took a deep breath, then walked back to the main house. his mind racing with thoughts of the unexpected encounter that had just changed the course of his life. The storm passed some time before dawn, leaving a silver mist hovering over the estate grounds. The guest house was more than shelter. It was the first safe place she'd known in years. But Sarah didn't trust it. Not yet. That first night, she slept sitting up in the corner, her body curled protectively around Leo like a shield. The next morning, Ethan returned to check on them. He stood in the doorway of the guest house for a long moment, observing the modest scene. Sarah, now dressed in a borrowed sweater from the housekeeper, gently spoon-feeding Leo some cereal. "Would you consider staying here for a while?" Ethan asked after a pause. Sarah turned startled. "I don't want to impose or take advantage of your kind heart," she said. Ethan smiled and responded, "You need stability, a safe place, and the house needs someone to help around. Cleaning, cooking, managing some day-to-day things. I can offer you that." She looked at him and asked, "You'd trust a stranger in your home?" "I've let one into my car," Ethan said dryly. "The rest is a small leap." She smiled faintly. "Then, yes. Thank you. I'll work hard, I promise." And Sandra did. Over the next several weeks, she settled into a rhythm. She woke early, helped the housekeeper with meal preparations, organized rooms, washed linens, and swept floors. Leo adjusted quickly, learning to play quietly in the garden, often under the watchful eyes of Ethan's security team, who had been instructed to allow him free movement. One evening, as he passed the guest house window, he caught sight of her humming a lullaby, brushing Leo's damp hair after his bath. It was a scene so achingly gentle, he felt his throat tighten. "Would you ever consider staying longer?" he asked her one morning. She didn't look up from her dishwashing. "Why?" she asked. "I love the way you are doing around the house," Ethan said. "But you still don't even know me," Sarah said. "I know you're kind," he said. "I know you love your son. And I know you haven't looked anyone in the eyes for more than 2 seconds since you got here." She paused. Her hands trembled slightly. "I'm tired of running," she whispered. "Do you want to talk about it?" Ethan asked. "Not yet, but maybe, one day," Sarah responded. "All right, I will be there waiting for you," Ethan responded. One morning, the housekeeper approached Ethan with concern. "There was a man outside the guest house last night," she said. "He was shouting." Sarah told him to leave. "He said he'd take the boy if she didn't give him what he wanted." Ethan's blood ran cold. What did she say? She just stood in front of her son, like she was ready to die for him. Ethan stormed to the guest house, but Sarah was already gone. Her things, Leo's clothes, vanished. A note was tucked beneath the flower vase. "You gave us peace, and I can't let him take that from you. I can't turn your home into a battlefield, so I've decided to go away. Don't come looking for us. It's better this way." Ethan was confused. Why didn't Sarah confide in him instead? Ethan made up his mind to get her and Leo back to safety. What followed was a desperate, relentless search. Private investigators, surveillance footage, and cash trail. Days later, in a half-abandoned factory turned shelter on the edge of Ashgrove, Ethan found her. Sarah was thinner and paler. Leo was asleep on a thin mattress, his small arm draped across Sarah's side. When she saw Ethan, she backed up instinctively, her eyes wild. "I told you not to come," Sarah said. "You don't give me orders, Sarah," Ethan responded. "You don't understand. If he finds me here, he would take my son away from me." "I have been running away from him," Sarah said. "I'm not afraid of him," Ethan said. "You should be," she said, her voice breaking. "He nearly killed me once. And now he wants Leo. He doesn't want a family. He wants control." Ethan stepped closer. "You think I can't protect you? I think people like you don't get involved with broken women like me. I once loved him madly, but over time the man I fell for disappeared. In his place was someone cold, angry, and cruel. It started with words that stung like knives. Then came the slammed doors, the threats whilst using objects. Then he started hitting me. He started leaving bruises on me. Then he started shouting and hitting our son over little things. He successfully instilled fear into our son's life. I stayed back in the relationship because of Leo, our son." She told Ethan, "He's still Leo's father. Maybe he'll change." I encouraged myself. But love doesn't live where fear grows. One night, it got too far. His rage exploded, and as his fist hit the wall just inches from my face, Elle knew that it would be me next. Or worse, Leo. I told him to get help by seeing a therapist, but every time I brought up the suggestion, he would threaten me. That evening, when he stepped out to get something from the shop, the rain started falling and delayed him. With trembling hands, I grabbed my bag and held Leo close to my chest. The rain poured as we ran barefoot into the dark, with Leo crying. Then I saw your car approaching, and you stopped. I can't go back to him. I can't raise Leo under such an environment. I didn't run because I was weak. I ran because I needed to save my son. And I'm glad that I was strong enough to finally save both myself and my son. Ethan reached forward, brushing her damp hair back from her face, and said to Sarah, "You're not broken. You're brave." She trembled and finally collapsed into his arms. Ethan picked up Leo and held Sarah's hands as he led them to the car. Back at the estate, things changed. Ethan called in lawyers and investigators. He paid for restraining orders and court hearings. Within days, Sarah's ex was instructed to stay away from Sarah and her son. He had no choice but to sign the agreement paperwork. Sarah cried when the officer told her, quietly at the kitchen table, but not for fear, but because of the freedom. Thereafter, Sarah and Leo didn't return to the guest house. They moved into the East Wing. Sarah began filling the rooms with light, baking cinnamon rolls, planting herbs, teaching Leo to ride a tricycle through the hallway. Ethan began smiling more. He had long conversations with Sarah, deep ones. One night, while watching the fire, Sarah asked, "Why did you stop to help me despite the rain?" "Because I know what it feels like to lose everything," Ethan said. "I just never had the courage to ask for help the way you did." Their bond deepened as time went by, in the spaces between words, in the way they passed each other a coffee cup, or how Leo reached for Ethan's hand when they walked through the garden. One rainy afternoon, Ethan found Sarah by the lakeside. "Do you know what I see when I look at you?" he asked. She shook her head. "Home," Ethan responded. Sarah smiled but said nothing. "I have a large house. I've had money, but I've never had someone choose or love me for myself, and I've never chosen anyone the way I choose you." He knelt down and asked Sarah, "Will you marry me?" Sarah broke down in tears, nodding. "Yes. I thought love was a thing for other people, but somehow you made me believe it could be mine," Sarah said. 2 weeks later, barefoot in the garden, Sarah wore a hand-sewn dress, and Leo clutched a small card that read, "My mommy used to cry at night. Now she laughs when she bakes. Mr. Ethan makes her banana bread and lets me jump in puddles. I think that means they're in love." The guests laughed. When Sarah and Ethan kissed, it wasn't about spectacle. It was about surviving storms. It was about real love. Ethan held Sarah's hands and whispered into her ears, "My angel, I promise to love you at all times. I will adore you during every moment. Through every rain, storm, and sunshine, my love for you remains unshaken." They became a proof that true love exists. True love is not just found in perfect days. It's in patience during storms, in gentle words after hard truths, and in choosing each other, even when it's not easy. True love doesn't try to control, but it gives freedom, safety, and peace. It doesn't hurt, but it heals. Thank you for watching. Remember that your story isn't over. Someone out there needs your light. Keep going. Remember to like the story, leave your comment, and subscribe to my channel. Until the next video, stay kind and graceful.